Hello, this is Hamparian from the Armenian National Committee office here in Washington, D.C. The U.S. Senate will return to session in about a half an hour. When they do, one of the very first things that they'll take up is the National Defense Authorization Act. Now, the Senate went late into the night yesterday evening trying to resolve some differences and come to a consensus on how this measure would reach the Senate floor. It doesn't seem like there's strong consensus. There's some very strong feelings on both sides of the aisle. And it's unclear this morning if when the Senate does step in and consider this measure, that they'll actually move to amendments and have, the full and robust consideration, sort of the regular order process, and then, pass, fail, a series of amendments and then adopt the entire measure. It's looking increasingly likely, although I don't know for sure, I don't think anybody knows for sure, it's looking increasingly likely that they may consider the measure today, sort of like open the door, open the gateway to consideration of it, but not complete consideration of it. If that happens, it may be that the Senate goes into Thanksgiving recess, and then the staffs continue to work on it during that break, and then when they return, they'll do all the votes. It's unclear. It may happen today. It may happen. They may stay the weekend, which is probably unlikely, or it may be that they return after the Thanksgiving recess. This is just the nature of the Senate. That's how things work. Consensus must be reached, objections must be addressed, and there's very, very strong feelings about a variety of issues. Our issues are right there in the middle of this. Now, as you know, and as I've shared with you several times, 3 different amendments have been offered that mean a lot to us as Americans of Armenian heritage. The most important is by Senator Bob Menendez to enforce Section 907 of the Freedom Support Act. That would effectively stop U.S. military assistance to Azerbaijan. It's an authority, a waiver authority, the ability to waive or suspend enforcement of a law. It's a provision that an authority, a power given to presidents for the past 2 decades. In our view, that authority, that power has been abused. The spirit and letter of the law is no military aid, no assistance to Azerbaijan if they're attacking or blockading Armenia or Nagorno-Karabakh. Now, they've obviously been attacking and blockading Nagorno-Karabakh and Armenia for 30 plus years now. And yet, over the last 20 years, presidents have waived this law. And that was always wrong. It was wrong for Bush, it was wrong for Obama, it was wrong for Trump, and it was certainly wrong for Biden. President Biden waived this law. He suspended this law, even in the wake of Azerbaijan's attack, even after Azerbaijan received all the money, mostly sent over during the Trump administration, right? All that money moved over to Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan then used that moral support and that material support in attacking Artsakh and now attacking and occupying portions of Armenia. So it's not as though President Biden did this just like the others. No, he did it in full knowledge of this attack, in full knowledge of how the U.S. military aid materially and morally strengthened Azerbaijan's military. And making it even worse is that President Biden, as a candidate, had called upon President Trump to enforce Section 907. He knew the right place on this issue. He knew certainly the position that would appeal to voters of Armenian heritage. He called on President Trump, enforce Section 907, stop the flow of arms and aid to Azerbaijan. He was right as a candidate, but sadly, as president, he waived that law. And he did so a day before the recognition of the Armenian genocide, as if one somehow balanced the other. In fact, they're both, it's, as I've said before, there's an aspect of cruelty to, on the 24th of April, recognizing genocide committed against the Armenian people, and then just the day before, on April 23rd, green-lighting military assistance to a country that is hell-bent openly so, to continuing that very genocide. They really are starkly at odds with one another. If you're going to recognize the Armenian genocide, as President Biden did, that comes with responsibilities, right? The message is the attempted annihilation of the Armenians cannot be denied, and in fact, that history will be affirmed. You can't, in the same breath, in the same day, in the same period of 24 hours, then allow U.S. military assistance to Azerbaijan, whose leader, Ilham Aliyev, has claimed essentially all of Armenia as Azerbaijani territory, that's genocidal in nature, is currently attacking the Sunni region and has claimed Yerevan as an Azerbaijani city. So it's clear to us, crystal clear, and I think clearly to Senator Menendez as well, that the authority that Congress granted the authority that Congress gave the executive branch, the authority that was delegated to the executive branch regarding enforcement or waiver of Section 907, that has been abused. And it's time for the Congress to reassert its authority. Congress is, after all, we've all read our Constitution, Congress is the law-writing branch of the U.S. government. And they wrote Section 907, and they've seen it abused. And now Senator Menendez is saying, let's take back that law-writing authority. And the spirit and the letter, the purpose, the stated intent of Section 907 is not to reward Azerbaijan, not to provide Azerbaijan with military aid or any other aid, as long as they're conducting offensive uses of force or blockading Armenia or Nagorno-Karabakh. That's the law. If there are people who don't like that law, well, they should go and debate against that law. But I haven't seen that. None of us have seen that. Instead, we've seen this waiver, which is a way to circumvent, a way to undermine U.S. statute, and that's unacceptable. And that's why we are so strongly supportive of Senator Menendez's amendment. It's amendment number 4177 to the National Defense Authorization Act. It's a must-pass amendment. We're strongly urging Senator Reid, who's the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, and his Republican counterpart, Senator Jim Inhofe. Senator Reid is from Rhode Island. Senator Jim Inhofe is from Oklahoma. We would like to see them include, in fact, very much expect that they will include the Menendez Amendment in a manager's package, a larger set of amendments, sometimes called an en bloc or a collective thing of measures that should be voted upon and approved as a matter of course. I haven't heard opposition to. Let me say it another way. I've yet to hear. I think any of us have yet to hear the case for sending American tax dollars to Azerbaijan. Now, let's be clear. American tax dollars are earned. We either earn them through our work or we borrow against our future. Like that's where our treasury, derives. It's either through work or debt, right? So we're either through our labors or our debt, we have money, and then instead of spending it on things that we think might, be more useful, whether in America or abroad, we're shipping it to Ilham Aliyev. Just to be clear, Ilham Aliyev does not need American money. He does not deserve American money. He is a billionaire. His family has been robbing Azerbaijan for almost the entirety of the past half century. They are fabulously, ridiculously wealthy. They just bought, according to the Pandora Papers, $740 million worth of property in just London. Now, I don't know how much they own in Paris or in Los Angeles or New York or Buenos Aires or wherever, but just in London, $740 million, and that's just in real estate. Let's set aside whatever stocks or bonds or other assets they may have. Clearly, we're talking about a family here that has multiple billions of dollars. Yet, we, as Americans, are asked to send our dollars to fund his military. He can't do it himself, apparently, right? We got to help him out, chip in, put a nickel in Ilham Aliyev's, pencil cup because he's, short on change, right? No, he's worth billions. His children, his grandchildren, his great-great-grandchildren will benefit fabulously from the wealth that he has stolen from the natural resources and the people of Azerbaijan. And yet, the request is we send them our money. Now, I think if there are senators out there who think that's a fair proposition, they should make that case. They're perfectly entitled, right? They've been elected, and they can get to the Senate floor and say, I object to the Menendez Amendment because I think this is a good use of American money. But I don't think they'll do that. Which brings us to the question of amendments, right? So the way you win the amendment, the way that this amendment would pass, and the others as well, which I'll touch on, right, is by bringing them into the light of day, where members can vote up or down. They can debate this side and that side. They can discuss it, amend it, change it, work it out in the public arena, in the sunshine of public scrutiny, right? And I think if it is brought out into the sunshine of public scrutiny, out there in the arena, in the forum, that the senators will do the right thing. And they'll not want to be shipping American dollars to Azerbaijan, certainly not want to be explaining to their constituents why they're shipping their tax dollars to this oil-rich, racist, violently anti-Armenian dictator. And I think that truth and fairness and wisdom would prevail. The way things work sometimes in Washington, though, is that an issue that has broad support, right, that would pass, perhaps even without opposition, is denied a vote, is denied the opportunity, is kept in the shadows and not brought into the light of day. We're a sunshine group. We want this issue brought out into the light where members of Congress can vote up or down. Let them have an up or down vote. Is that too much to ask? In our democracy, is that too much to ask that a question like this, that hundreds of millions of dollars, 120 million in just the last few years, that all this money can just be shipped off to a foreign dictator without an up or down vote? That even after that country has used these resources to massacre, to murder Armenians, to desecrate Armenian churches, to torture Armenian prisoners, that still we can't get a vote, right? I'm not saying we're owed a victory, although I think we will prevail, but to deny us that vote is wrong. It is wrong. It is undemocratic. It is unfair. It is not transparent. It is built, that thought is premised upon the idea that there's some set of people, a very, very narrow band of people who get to decide for us. Well, no, they shouldn't get to decide for us. How about this? The Senate and the House should decide this matter. And they should decide it in an open manner, transparent manner. They should be able to have the Menendez Amendment before them and say, this is something that we support. This is something that we think is fair for the American taxpayer. And that fairness, I think, would start with not spending our money on foreign dictators, violent foreign dictators who really are offensive to our values and certainly contrary to our interests. So that's the Menendez Amendment, a must-pass amendment. And really, we need it included, whether it's today or the weekend or next week. We need to see the Menendez Amendment pass. There are two other amendments. The second amendment by Senator Menendez investigates the U.S. parts in Turkish drones, and obviously the Turkish drones that were deployed by Azerbaijan against Artsakh, when they were shot down, they were opened up and U.S. parts were discovered. We've tried very hard to get answers to, what the legal implications are of these parts being found in these foreign drones. Senator Menendez asked Undersecretary Nuland about it during a hearing, and unfortunately, she said she would respond, but has never responded as far as we can tell. The House passed the Cardenas-Schiff Amendment, requesting a report on the U.S. parts found in Turkish drones. 28 U.S. representatives led by Congressman Cicilline and Congressman Bilirakis wrote to Secretary Blinken asking for a briefing on this. The Congressional Research Service has written a report on sort of the legal framework for how this issue should be adjudicated. And then finally, as I mentioned, Senator Menendez has offered an amendment to the NDAA. So we have two amendments, one in the House, one in the Senate. We've got a congressional letter, we have a congressional hearing, and a Congressional Research Service report, but yet no answers from the administration on this issue. Again, this is about sunshine. If it's difficult to talk about Turkey's drone program, well, too bad. If it's inconvenient or you're trying to provide cover for some other government, that's really not our problem. That's Turkey's problem. And here we are, though, 4, 5, 6 months, no, now 8, 9 months into this effort to get simple answers about Turkish drones. We have been forced to work through legislative friends to get answers because our questions have remained unanswered. So that's, I think, just like common sense and good government. We need to see this administration answer for the Turkish drone program. What is U.S. complicity in that program? What laws may or may not have been broken about that program? The answer may be that no laws were broken, or the answer may be multiple laws were broken. But we don't know that because the administration has dodged the basic question at every turn. And that's unacceptable. I think that's why Senator Menendez has moved forward with his amendment. The third amendment is put forward by Senator Alex Padilla, a great friend from California, and that looks into war crimes. And he offered that amendment in response to broad, well-documented reports of Azerbaijani war crimes. His amendment calls for the U.S. government, State Department, and Pentagon to look into Turkey recruiting foreign mercenaries from Syria, jihadist extremists to fight against Artsakh. Again, the drones, looking into Turkey's use of drones, and also its use of prohibited munitions like white phosphorus and cluster bombs. We need an investigation of these things. The fact of the matter is that the previous administration, Trump, and the current administration, Biden, they've been really, really soft. They have, I think, at the root of their policy failure is their unwillingness to call out Azerbaijan as the aggressor, and then everything else flows from that. So the weakness on prisoners of war, the weakness on prohibited munitions, the weakness on drones, the weakness on foreign mercenaries. Go down the list. They all have their origin. They're all rooted in this fundamental unwillingness of the United States to call out aggression. We have a situation here it's sad, and if it weren't such a serious issue, it would be funny at some level. We have a situation where Ilham Aliyev boasts to his people, boasts to the world, boasts to Turkey, that he started this war and he fought this war and that he feels he was successful in this war. For him, this is a point of pride. He boasts about it all the time. He makes no secret of it. In fact, he shouts it from the rooftops. So Ilham Aliyev is loud and proud in support of him having started this war. He thinks it's a great thing, right? Move to Washington, D.C., walking on eggshells, right? The U.S. government, our State Department was founded in 1789. It is our oldest and maybe most revered executive agency. 1789, been around for a long time, still unable to summon the courage to simply say what Ilham Aliyev says, right? To speak the truth that Ilham Aliyev boasts about all the time, that Azerbaijan started the war. Azerbaijan started the war. Azerbaijan can say that. Azerbaijan does say that. Our State Department still plays word games, verbal gymnastics. They pull out their thesaurus. They think they have some clever mid-level folks who can kind of dance around the situation, but always end up with something like, both sides. Or about a week ago, when an Armenian worker was killed while working on the water system to help the population of Artsakh, which is starved of water, right? Shot, just killed, execution style. The State Department statement was something like, I forget the exact words, but it was something like, we regret the violence that led to the death of. Any of you who've taken 10th grade English would get marked down for that. That's a C-. That's the passive voice. It's not clear, like the subject, the object. It's all like muddled together so that no one knows what happened. There was violence, right? There was violence. No. Azerbaijani forces executed an Armenian worker. That's the truth. When they say something like, we regret the violence that led to something like this, what they're doing is showing utter disrespect to the person killed. Outrageous levels of disrespect to the person who was killed and their family. They're saying, you know what? No respect for you. And give total cover to the person who pulled that trigger and the government behind the person who pulled that trigger, emboldening them because they now know they can do whatever they want. Frankly, this is a lesson that's been reinforced and reinforced and reinforced over decades. Every iteration of Azerbaijani aggression has been met with the most anemic, weak, cowardly, spineless, gutless response. And it could be an accident, but it's not. It's an accident the first time, the second time, the third time. After the first year, the fifth year, the 15th year, after the 30th year, it's intentional. It's intentional. And it represents a gross and ongoing failure of our government to confront Azerbaijan's aggression. From that failure flows everything else. The weakness on prisoners, the weakness on prohibited munitions, the weakness on drones, the weakness on foreign mercenaries, all of this. We need to turn that around. And frankly, we have to turn it around starting today. If in fact the NDAA is going to move forward today, we need to make sure it moves forward with both Menendez amendments and the Padilla amendment. You can help. Your senators have a choice. They can co-sponsor these measures. They can vote for these measures. They can demand consideration of these measures, or they cannot. They'll make that judgment by and large based on what they hear from constituents. There are a lot of Armenians in dozens of states across the country. They need to hear from you. You may be tired of hearing me say this. Senators have many powers. Members of Congress, members of the House have many powers. One of them is not mind reading. They do not know what you think. They might guess what you're thinking, but if you don't have the energy and the drive and the will to communicate that, even if they maybe have some inkling as to what you're thinking, they're not going to take you seriously. They won't take you seriously. They'll take you seriously when you pick up the phone and call their office, when you get your friends and colleagues and classmates and coworkers to do that as well. That's when you get taken seriously. When you engage with them in a polite but firm way on a regular basis, demanding results, they'll be responsive. That's our system. That's our system. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to describe it, our system rewards those who speak up, those who stand up, those who fight back. If you are in the arena, right, you have a chance to move your issues forward. You may win one day, you may lose the other day, but you're in the arena and you have a shot. Guaranteed. If you're in the stands, if you're in the audience, you're not going to move the needle either way. The scoreboard will not change 1 point either way by remaining in the stands. Get into the arena, make those calls, encourage your friends and family to do so as well. This is the day we need to really, really ramp up our pressure. So please take action today. Go to the link on that's the subject of this video, anca.org/NDAA call. You'll get connected directly to your senators. If you haven't done it before, please let this be the day that you start calling your members of the Senate. If you've done it before, please call again today and encourage your friends and family to do the same. Thank you.